What's up, friends and real estate, photo and video nerds? We're back with another one. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, I'm Will with Learn Real Estate Photography, and today we are capturing photo and video at this apartment complex, but made out of like single family homes. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna get some dope shots, some absolute bangers of these homes. We're also gonna capture some of the lifestyle and neighborhood amenities that are included with this, some of the restaurants and parks and things like that of Yelm, which is where we're at, Yelm, Washington. A cute little, like, I guess I would say a rural town. It's growing a lot, so that's why they have these apartment buildings going up. And then along the way, I'm gonna share with you guys all the gear that I use, the settings that I use, all the tips and the tricks that I think about when I'm capturing amazing compositions, when I'm creating high quality stuff for my clients. So if you're out there and you're learning how to do real estate photography, I'm happy to be here with you. Join me along for the ride. We're gonna get some dope shots, like I said. We're gonna expect the unexpected because that's real estate. Something crazy, I feel like, always happens. So join me on this journey. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm excited to bring you along. Let's do it. Okay guys, so step one, we're gonna cover the gear that I'm gonna be using. Step two is to go through the house, prep it, get it all ready, all figured out, and make sure it looks picture perfect. Step three is gonna be capture it. I'm gonna take you behind the scenes as I choose what angles, where I start in the house, how I'm making sure everything looks good, the flow of it basically. And then step four is gonna be to go through, capture the interiors, then we're gonna pop outside, capture the exteriors of the homes. And then following that, we're gonna hit up they just have some amenities and things like that. So gonna capture the park, the playground, all that good stuff. And then once we're all finished with the units, with the property, then we're gonna slip on down to Yelm proper, where their downtown is. It's really tiny. And we're gonna go through their downtown and capture some shots of like cool local parks, any local restaurants and things like that. And I'm gonna show you guys exactly how we put it all together and capture this amazing piece of media that we can then give to the apartment units, the property management companies, so that they can use to advertise, right? The goal here is to create a gorgeous, incredible media that the property management company can use to advertise the space, help get some people in these homes, and then I get paid on top of it. So now in regards to this specific piece of media that I'm creating for them, they reached out, we settled on a number of $1,500. So approximately it's going to take about 3 hours to go through everything, plus the editing time on top of that, where I'll send it off to my editors and the time I have to pay them for. But I would say for 3 hours of work, $1,500 is pretty good. So I'm very happy with that. If you guys want to learn how to do more of that, feel free to drop a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions. There's so much opportunity in the real estate industry and in this entire niche, whether it's working with agents, whether it's working with property management companies, or other architecture, designers, construction, all these different things. They need media, right? So it's super important that you, as the media creator, are out there reaching out to them, talking to them, building a portfolio, and building your business. So yeah, I'm really trying to help entrepreneurs and content creators like yourself that are out there find a way, find a method to creating a life that is led by passion and art and all that good stuff, because it's possible, right? So let's jump to it. Let's talk about gear right now. Okay, so camera nerds' favorite subject. Everyone wants to pixel peep, talk about the newest, freshest gear, all the rumors and everything, so let me show you guys what I've been using. And of course, you don't have to have this exact same gear, but something similar, that fits your budget and accomplishes the same thing is really all you need. What I've got is a Sony full frame camera. So I've got the Sony A7S III. It's a beast of a camera. It's actually, I think, like 3, 4, 5 years old now. It's an awesome camera, but just a full frame or even a crop sensor camera is great. And along with that, I mean, these are the basics, right? You also want to have a wide angle lens. I love this 16 to 35 millimeter lens by Sony. It's the f4 PZ, which stands for power zoom. I've also got a nice CPL filter on here. So this polarizing filter helps get rid of glares, reflections. It can increase contrast a little bit. So it's a really, really solid setup. I'm very happy with this one. So if you're just getting started, any sort of camera with the wide angle lens is going to be really what you need. And then right now, and on today's shoot, I'm also bringing a Sony The Sony 35mm f1.4. This is the GM. Awesome, amazing lens, super pumped on it. And I find that this prime lens, and when you add it on top of all the nice wide shots from the regular lens, gives you just a really, really cool effect. It adds a lot more cinema, adds a nice touch, and the clients absolutely love it. It helps me stand out. Along with that, I've got my trusty Mavic 3 Pro drone. Now, this thing is so nice. I like this one because it's got the 3 different lenses on it. You see that? Bam, look at that. And so, especially out here in rural Washington, you can get some incredible shots of the mountains in the background. We've got Mount Rainier. Sometimes you can see the Olympics or just like other beautiful sights. So having those zoomed in lenses on the drone is really, really nice and just adds like an extra level of flavor to your footage. Along with that, I've got the DJI RC remote. It's pretty solid. It's a little bit slow sometimes. That's my only thing I could say about it. There are other RC remotes you can use. Whatever works. This honestly is not a bad one. It works great for me. So again, if you're just getting started in real estate, the very basics that I would really recommend to you guys is having a camera, a wide angle lens that's around 16mm that maybe zooms a little bit, but primes are great, along with the drone. Now, let's talk about little extras that I've got. One thing that's going to be super key as well is having the gimbal. So right here, I've got the DJI RS3 Pro, which is an awesome gimbal. I've been super duper happy with this one. The motors are really strong. The balance is really great. It just has a lot of cool features. I've upgraded a little bit with this handle. I feel like having 2 points of contact has been really, really nice. It helps stabilize it. Getting a gimbal is also going to be a huge, huge deal for your business. So that's basically my setup. If you guys are looking for something, get something that's similar to this and you will be freaking set. Okay, so now let's jump over to the actual settings that I'm going to use with this camera. Okay, so now that we've got gear figured out, let me give you a specific rundown as I go through all of my camera settings that are really necessary to have dialed in as you're doing real estate photo and video. Okay guys, we're here in the menu of my camera and I'm going to show you exactly how to get the settings that I use when shooting real estate. The first thing I'm going to go through and do is set up, so make sure that I have HDR mode on because we're going to be shooting HDR photos as well as 4K video. We can do this both at the same time, or like basically at the same time, because of the gimbal, and the in-body image stabilization is super helpful for that. But what I do is I set up continuous bracket at 2 exposure values over 3 images, so that's the HDR setting. And then I'll go through and I change it from automatic focus. I'll do manual focus. And in terms of focus length, I usually have it around, if I'm indoors, it's gonna be around like 6 meters, somewhere around there. And if I'm outside, it'll probably be infinity or a little bit further out, maybe around like 20 meters or something. So you gotta find out what works best for you. We're just really going for super sharp photos. So I like to do about 6 meters away. Okay, because we're doing 4K video at 24 frames per second, I'll drop my shutter speed down to 1/50th of a second. And you can see right now it's super duper blown out. So what I'll do is I will adjust my aperture. I like to keep my aperture at approximately 7 or 8, f7.1 or f8.0. I found that's a really sweet spot. And now you can see the screen is like incredibly blown out. So you can see that the ISO is way too high. So I'm gonna go into my ISO. I try not to push my ISO beyond, approximately 640. The top end I like to go is around 2000. Now this is entirely also dependent. You can go down a huge rabbit hole with this. You can go down, depending on what your creative look is. Are you using S-Log on your Sony camera to have a flat log picture profile or not? Do you have dual ISO? What's your base ISO? What's your extended ISO? So I just use a normal creative look that is, highlights taken down, shadows up a little bit, a little bit of saturation, a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of clarity. I'm basically trying to have the video as clean as possible straight out of camera. The editors don't have to do too much. There's less post-processing that needs to be done. Yes, you lose a little bit in the high ends. Your skies can be blown out a little bit more, but for real estate, it doesn't always matter. I'm trying to get like 95% away there. I don't have to get 100%. So you can flame me in the comments, roast me in the comments if you want, but that's what I prefer. So we're getting closer, but you can see that the image is still really blue, right? And so that is an issue with the white balance. And so I'm going to change it from incandescent, and you can either do auto, which can lead to its own problems, but can be nice and quick when you're shooting. Or right now I'm going to go through and do a custom temperature. I'm going to reset this so there's no tint on the white balance. I'm gonna adjust mine. We got kind of an overcast sort of day, but I wanna keep it nice and warm. I would say that's a little bit too yellow, 4200 Kelvin. Let's stick around. I'll probably do around 3800 Kelvin or 4000 Kelvin today. And so because that's custom white balance, you're gonna have to adjust, approximately if it's a different room, the lighting changes, etc. So keep an eye on that. Okay, so we have 1/50th of a second for the shutter speed. We have f7.1. We have ISO 2000 right now. You can see the exposure is showing that we're basically perfectly balanced. I've got my manual focus set. I've got my drive mode for HDR photos set. And let's go in and make sure that the 4K is looking good. So I'm gonna set my 4K XAVCS 4K on the Sony. I found that's a great one. You can go into your own rabbit hole about which file format or codec you prefer. And then, yeah, like I said, I'm doing 24p at 100 megabytes per second, 422 10-bit. I found for real estate, it's super nice. Of course, some people like to shoot 60, which would change your shutter speed, 120, which you'd want to change your shutter speed, but I found 24 is really great. It gives it a nice cinematic sort of look to it. Finally, before we go any further and get started shooting, I want to make sure that you guys turn off your steady shot, because if you're running a gimbal, you definitely want to turn your steady shot off. Otherwise, you can have micro jitters and issues, because if the gimbal's trying to stabilize and the camera's trying to stabilize, they kind of like bounce off of each other and cause issues. Before we start shooting, I want to make sure that the gimbal is also ready to go. So step one when you're setting a gimbal is making sure that it's balanced without the motors on. If it can balance itself without the motors, you're good to go. You want to turn it off. Now, once it's turned on, I like to go through, and I use typically, and on the DJI RS3, we've got a pan tilt follow, hand follow, and an FPV mode. I normally run around in the pan follow mode, and this keeps it nice and steady. I increase the deadband a little bit to make sure it's not going anywhere. And you can see, even though it's just sitting here, it's kind of like traveling a little bit. And so you want to make sure that you go in and you start the calibration every time. And this will do a little dance. It wiggles a little bit. And then once you're all done with that, you're ready to shoot. Okay, the gimbal's ready, the camera's ready, we're ready to shoot. And here's how we know what to shoot. And so when this company reaches out, they say, hey, Will, they shoot me an email, give me a call, and they say, hey, Will, we'd like to come have you capture our property, etc., make it look great, make it look awesome on camera so we can get more tenants in here. And so what I do is I go to their website and I kind of just basically scroll through and I find out what are they advertising. And it sounds like they're talking about the amenities, they want to have the pet area, they want to have the playground. And when they talk about the model units on their website, they talk about the open floor plans, the quartz countertops, the natural light, all these different things. So getting a list of all of your stuff that you want to shoot beforehand makes it so when you're on, the property and you're on the premises, it is super streamlined and you're making sure to capture all the high points that further reinforce everything that they're talking about online. You want to make sure that you're really integrating into what they're talking about and projecting to their consumers. So that way it just works super seamlessly. So that's a little pro tip for you guys, is to make sure that you're including, bring a list of all the amenities and extras and things like that you want to have. The final step before capturing a single shot, of course, is to make sure the home looks great. So in this situation, there's a lot that can be changed and a lot that can be improved, because the quality of your photo is only going to be as great as how good you make it look actually in real life, right? And a lot of stuff, of course, you can change with Photoshop, but since we're here, why not do it right and get it fixed? So little things like, of course, turning on the lights. Here's something right here. You got this dangling participle right here. So we're gonna just get it going. I like to make sure that the faucet looks good like that. We can hide this in here. We'll close all these cabinets. Don't want that going on. You can see that this light, of course, is turned off. So we'll turn that on. Other things include making sure that, I don't like that extra line from the screen door. So I'm gonna go in here, push that all the way in. And now it looks a little bit cleaner. Maybe I'll push it a little bit further in. Oh, you can see right here, this guy is a little bit out. Let's close that. A fireplace has like a weird color, so I'll make the fireplace look nice and natural and warm. That looks good. You can also adjust the blinds a little bit. So in this case, I don't want to put them all the way up because then, you know, maybe you can't see that they're there, but having them halfway down looks pretty nice. So yeah, I would say this looks good. Kitchen is looking dialed in. The lights are coming on. I'm going to go through the rest of the house really quick, get all those on, and then we'll actually get our first shot going. The little details, man, they make a big difference. I don't know if you guys can see with YouTube's compression algorithm, but there are carpet lines in the camera. So I'm gonna do my best as I go through the house and get it prepped and ready to make sure to keep those nice and clean. It's just like an extra layer of like readiness. So I'm kind of scooting along on the side here, making sure not to disturb the carpet lines as much as possible. So let's talk about the flow that a viewer first coming in. You don't want to start off with upstairs, of course, because of what? That's not normal. You want to kind of think of like what's a natural, simple way to show off the house. And so I've actually got a PDF linked below that talks about my sort of like cookbook secret ingredient list and exactly how I go about capturing, you know, what part of the house first, and then what, and then what, and then how do I finalize and everything. So I would say check that out. But the gist of it is you want to start off at the front door, because obviously that makes sense. Front door, right? Get it? And then moving through, I like to capture the kitchen, which is usually a huge highlight. Following the kitchen, then we'll do the dining area and the living areas. Then we'll go upstairs and do the main bedroom because they usually want to see that the most as well. And then the main bathroom, followed by extra bedrooms, offices, laundry rooms, garage, exteriors. So that's kind of, you know, the game plan for today. So let's jump to it. So the first tip that I can share with you guys is that when I'm shooting, I'm generally kind of like chest to, I guess, like belly button sort of height is where I want to have the camera. I feel like that's kind of like the sweet spot when it comes to capturing both showing the flooring as well as showing off like the height of the windows and the height of the ceilings and things like that. So generally I'm trying to keep it right around this area, which I feel like is most natural. Another thing you can do in regards to verticals is to turn on the digital level that's inside your camera. A lot of them have these days. Check your manufacturer. You can also turn on grid lines as well. So using grid lines and the digital level in your camera can make sure that the verticals that you're capturing are super perfect, straight up and down, look super nice. And having those verticals correct is a huge part of the real estate photography sort of look. Okay, so this first shot, what I'm gonna do is open up the front door and kind of get a nice like sort of gliding, panning shot to open up and like bring the viewer inside. I'll make sure to get video as well as photo. Okay, the next shot I have set up is I'm gonna bring the viewer into the main living area to show off that sort of like open floor plan that they talked about online. So in this case, I'm gonna use the rail banister here as foreground for my video as I kind of like push past it and give it just that extra bit of depth. So having that sort of foreground in as many shots as you can is gonna be really helpful for creating more of foreground, midground, background, and adding depth and parallax to your videos. Okay, for my next shot here, I'm gonna focus on the kitchen because unfortunately the home is at stage, so it doesn't have a ton of like interest in this area over here. It's kind of just a big open room, but the kitchen has a lot of like angles and contrast and materials and things like that. So I'm gonna try and really highlight this as much as possible. So I'm gonna step back here. I have it at 18 millimeters and I'm gonna do a nice push in for the video just to kind of introduce the kitchen from like just a very simple one-point perspective type of shot. And then also I'm gonna grab the photos as well. One thing I like to do when I'm shooting their photos actually is hold this Z button right here, I guess is what it is. And so that actually stops the camera from like moving at all. And so it keeps it even more steady and more still, because obviously if you're shooting HDR, you want all three photos pop, 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 to be like right on top of each other, so there's no like ghosting or issues lining up the images. Okay, another pro tip that I want to share with you guys is to always make sure you keep an eye on like a sixth sense. Your spidey sense is always looking out for reflections, shadows, and lighting issues like that. So for example, I can see that myself, I'm over here, I'm definitely visible in some shots if I'm shooting this. So imagine I'm on the gimbal, I'm pushing in, you get back home, you see yourself in the shot, that sucks, right? Or if I want to get a shot like this of it, like maybe you can see kind of my shadow crosses over, like a little bit right there. So just making sure that your shadow isn't visible, your reflection isn't getting caught in any of these reflective surfaces is a super important part of being a pro filmmaker and photographer. You can get rid of a lot of it with Photoshop, but it's a better habit just not to do it at all. So I have a bad habit and it's overshooting. Basically, after so many years of working with clients who are always asking, hey, did you get that one specific angle of that one specific little, spot of the house and all this stuff? You start to kind of feel like maybe I should just overshoot while I'm here rather than having to hear that from the agent or the client and then come back later, right? And so lately what I've been doing is just making sure that I get every freaking angle possible. And I think that has really helped, and agents actually really love it. They have a choice of getting the photos back and getting to choose from all of them later down the road. So I know that the MLS usually requires 25 or 40 photos for homes and things like that, but usually I'll deliver like up to 60 or even more photos if the house is larger. So for example, right now I'm getting a shot from over there pointing back this way. I'm getting from this corner showing like the expanse of the kitchen. I'm getting shots from this angle showing that way. I'm gonna be over here shooting, kind of pushing in like this. I'm gonna be in this angle, shooting back. I'm gonna get down, showing like the cabinets and the countertops and things. I'm gonna get some nice detail shots like this. Basically what I'm saying is I'm just gonna go crazy and get like a ton of shots and sort it out later. So in terms of like compositions and choosing which compositions to make, I like to make sure to get basically every corner I can be in, I'll get an angle of that facing out, as well as the detail shots to go along with it. Now, speaking of detail shots, I'm gonna throw the 35 mil on the camera right now. The 35 millimeter is gonna be perfect for capturing those details of the sinks, the countertops, some of the appliances and things like that that come with the home, just to really emphasize and help show them off. Usually I'll be shooting at an f2.8 or maybe f1.4 if I can get away with it. Sometimes there's too much light, but I think right now it's kind of overcast, we should be good. Yeah, I feel like having that extra lens that's a prime, it's very sharp, it adds like a cinematic sort of bokeh look to it. Clients go gaga for that stuff, they absolutely love it. So yeah, it's a great way to go about it. One thing that you could do is actually go from manual focus to automatic focus, because if you're kind of like orbiting around the sink or whatever, you can lock on with your camera and it will stay perfectly focused on that. Or you can use autofocus to get the perfect focus, flip it to manual, and it will stay just locked at that point. So there's a few different ways to go about it. It's just, you want to make sure that you're not setting it at 1.4, missing the focus and having issues down the road, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Okay guys, we're making good time. We've successfully captured downstairs, the kitchen, the front entrance, the kitchen, the living room. I even got the little side bathroom over here. Now let's head upstairs and capture the rest of the home. So like I said before, the game plan for capturing upstairs is gonna be capturing the kind of like landing area over here. We're gonna jump into the main bedroom, the main bathroom, main closet, capture the side bathrooms and side bedrooms, and then jump outside. So yeah, the plan is to make sure to keep an eye on verticals, make sure the exposure is correct, make sure the white balance looks awesome, make sure we're getting photo and video from all the corners, and of course, if it's necessary, we're gonna be going in and capturing details of stuff. But I think that'll mostly be like in the bathrooms because again, like it's unstaged. So I wish I could capture close-ups of like nice bedding and materials and extra textures and things like that. But unfortunately, this house doesn't have it right now. Now in situations where there isn't a ton of foreground, what you can do is actually just use the foreground of the door frame right there. So you kind of just have that maybe on the right third or the left third, whatever works best for you guys, and just kind of softly push in front of it, almost like you're sliding to reveal the frame that you're showing off. So in this case, the bedroom. So with some of these small rooms, what I like to do is actually, I'm in the bathroom right now, but I'm shooting this room over here. So what you can do is use your wide angle lens, and you want to have as much of the room in as possible. You know, I'm right on the edge where the door frame is. You can see door frame on the left and the right, but I'm just a little bit past it. So I'm getting as much of the room as possible while still, you know, being in the other room. It's a great little trick that you can do on lots of different places inside the home to make the rooms look even larger than they possibly are. Beep. You can also use it as a nice foreground element to push past in your videos, just like that.
Nice.
Now the bathroom, of course, is another space where you really got to be careful about not getting in the shot, because obviously if you're standing right here with your camera, hello, hi world, but if you can go over here and kind of like angle it just right so you're not really seeing it in the corner, or what I like to do is come over here and get a secondary shot like this so you can see it like that. Then I'll also get a shot kind of like this, showing off the countertop, the cabinets, and the flooring as well. Now, one of the biggest things that I still struggle with sometimes is finding sort of like hidden areas or otherwise areas you wouldn't expect. So for example, that's just a closet behind me, right? No, in fact, it is the washer and the dryer. You want to make sure to investigate, go a little bit further, and make sure that you're getting all the angles of all the possible appliances and extra rooms in the house, because it's very easy to miss this, or maybe like side bathrooms and things like that. And obviously you don't want to miss it. The client's like, where is it? And then you're like, oh, I better drive back out there. And like, it kind of slows the whole thing down. You want to make sure you get all of it the first try. We're all done inside. Yeah. So the next step, of course, is to go out and do exteriors. So it's a little bit rainy today, so I think you really, what we'll have to watch out for on rainy days like today is little dots getting on the lens, because maybe you're pointed up, getting a nice shot as you pan down. And what could happen is you get a water drop on the lens, and then you have a water drop in all the subsequent photo and video that you take. So just really making sure that your camera isn't getting any water on top of the lens is super duper key. If you're shooting just photos and you're using a tripod, you can actually slow the shutter speed down a little bit, and that will help erase the lines from the streaks. But luckily it's not raining super duper hard right now, so I think we'll be a-okay. Now when it comes time to shoot outside, you want to make sure garbage cans, of course, are gone. That's going to be an absolute key. And in this situation, we're shooting, I think both, this is a duplex, so this house as well as that house. So I'm gonna go on and make sure the lights are on that side so everything looks nice and even and symmetrical throughout. We'll shoot the front door over here. We'll shoot the front of the home exteriors. We'll go to the backyard, get some back exteriors. Then we'll throw the drone up and get those as well. Check out this cool little bug. That's pretty sweet. I don't know what that is. Another thing you should be aware of, if it's wet, you might have footprints. So just be careful. Maybe wipe your feet off before you. Don't be like me. Oh no. Okay, it's time for the Indiana Jones move. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so my plan here is to get one photo with the door open, just to kind of create that nice entry sort of shot. And then I'll close the door and then just get the rest of the photos with the doors closed. You see right now that the door is a little bit open. So I'm in the backyard now, And to be honest, it's really not that much to write home about. It's just a little bit of fake grass, some concrete, and a little bit more fake grass, and a hillside. So it's not an incredible backyard, but we're gonna do our best to make it look awesome. So what I'm doing here is shooting probably from this angle, and then I'll jump over there, shoot back this way, and then I'm gonna try and sneak my way up here in the corner and get like kind of a shot down. Of course, you want to downplay how much of a slope there is, but just do my best to kind of show off what they do have, and if necessary, they can like virtually stage it and make it look awesome. I feel like sometimes a big part of real estate photography is being willing and careful to go where others maybe aren't willing to go, because then you can get angles that other people just would not be able to get. So making sure that you're up to the challenge, you're fit, you're in shape, make yourself liable for any medical injuries is super key. So always kind of be thinking about that. The camera got a little bit wet here. Not a big deal. We're all weather sealed. We're good to go. All right, guys, next up on the list is to get the drone, launch it up in the sky, get some cool shots of this home and maybe the neighborhood, and then keep rolling from there. All right, when it comes to drone shots, I try and match the photo and video just like I'm doing inside. So I'm shooting AEB on the photos, which is another type of HDR. For video, I'm shooting 4K. And then let's increase the exposure a little bit so it's a bit brighter. Nice. We can look at the white balance and make sure the white balance, usually I'll press auto and then just set it. So right now it's at 5800 and we're looking good. And then you want to double check, make sure you're not in any airspace you shouldn't be in. Takeoff is permitted. Make sure you have all the necessary stuff. And it's time to launch. One tip that I have for rainy days is that I like to keep my camera down as much as possible. You can see there's camera up and there's camera down, because if you're flying around with your camera up, it's more likely that you get raindrops that land on the lens. And it's much harder to clean off the raindrops from this drone lens when it's up in the sky than a regular camera lens. So I'll definitely try and get into position as much as possible with the camera down, flip the camera up, get the shot and put it back down. So the kind of standard shots I like to get with the drone are, of course, straight out in front of the house facing back. You want to get up above and kind of like swooping in as far as a video shot. You want to get some from the corners of the home, showing it off. I also like to get right up above and point straight down to show the roof, the lot lines and things like that. And then I also flew back behind, and behind there were some trees that I could kind of use as foreground as I spun around and kind of did some orbiting shots. So making sure that you show all angles of the home, the drone is perfect for it. Another thing you can do, which my friend Mac actually told me about, shout out Claymore Mac, he was in another video, check it out here. You can choose the master shots option if you're running a DJI drone, and that will automatically perform a series of like cinematic sort of moves at different like levels and things like that, and it looks really cool. So that's something to check out if you kind of just want the drone to automatically do it all. All right, guys, so we got the model home and the units done. Everything is looking good with those. Lights are off, everything's locked up. Make sure to be safe with that stuff. It's really important. You don't want to be the person on the hook in case something happens. But the next steps here, capture the amenities of the properties. So in this case, it's going to be the playground, the kind of pet area, along with some of the signage and some overall just nice wides to kind of introduce it. So I'm going to pop over to the playground. We're going to get some cool shots of that just to show it off and like make it look good. And from there, we'll jump to the front. I saw as I was driving in that there's a signage of Hudson Mill at the pond or whatever this place is called. We'll get some shots of that, and then we'll head over to downtown Yelm and get a few local shots of restaurants, cafes, playgrounds, and stuff like that, just to kind of fill everything out and make sure the client is super happy with it. Because really at the end of the day, they're selling not just the homes, they want the homes to look great, right? But they're also selling the sort of lifestyle and the community features of it because, you know, you're in here from out of state, you're trying to figure out, is this a cool spot or not? And you want to see, oh, there's a lively sort of downtown where I can go get a bite to eat, I can go check out the movie theater, or, you know, whatever it is. So you want to make sure to show off those like community aspects of it and the neighborhood aspects of it. That is really going to put yourself over the top in terms of like when people reach out to you, they're like, oh my God, I love that aspect that you put in there. It just shows that you're willing to go above and beyond and like do the most for your clients. So we'll get that done and jump into it. Okay, we're here at the little playground area. You can see that I've switched over to the 35mm prime. Just love that lens. And if we're outside, you know, spaces are so much larger, it's gonna be nicer to have that sort of like cinematic prime lens look. And there's plenty of space, so I don't have to worry about having nice wide shots because everything's so far away. We'll get some cool shots of this playground equipment, this like covered area. They were saying eventually there's gonna be basketball courts over there, but nothing I can do about it. Now with the houses, what I'm trying to do is capture as many angles as possible because that's a huge selling point. But for a space like this, you really don't have to get a ton of photos of the playground equipment. I'm not like selling it to a playground manufacturer, right? So I'll probably get 1 or 2 photos of the gazebo here, 1 or 2 photos of the playground structure, and then throw the drone up and get just kind of a wide shot of it, right? To tie everything together. From there, we can pop over to the front of the community where they got the signage. We'll get 2 signage shots, and then we'll head downtown and get some of those shots. What I'm liking right now is this angle with the 2 benches right side by side and then the playground equipment off in the distance. So I'm going to kind of use the benches as foreground and push towards that. Let's check it out. So over here in Washington, we're very well known for having gray, cloudy, gloomy sort of days. And today is just like that. It's cloudy, it's overcast, it's not super rainy, but it dims the light down and the clouds are kind of like blah, you know, not quite a nice, bright, sunny day, which is what they obviously want to advertise in their marketing materials for the homes in the area. So what I would suggest for you guys, and this is a pro tip from somebody who deals with a lot of gray days, is that you blow out the skies a little bit. So that way it turns the skies just actually white rather than having the sort of gray, dark clouds that look a little bit scary and gloomy and nasty. You end up with just a nice clean white background, which actually looks okay. And then you end up with skies that can be removed maybe a little bit easier by your editor. So something to think about. All right, the drone is nice and soaking wet. Final shots have been captured. Yes! I'm gonna head out and get some downtown shots of Yelm. Finish this bad boy up, send all the files to the editor. I mean, before I send them, I'll make sure to go through and make sure to take out any nasty shots I don't like, just to kind of cull it and make sure it's only the cream of the crop, the best of the best that goes to the editor. So that way, what I get back is the absolute best that I can send to the client. Thank you guys again for joining me on this adventure. It's been a super fun time. Thank you again. If you have any questions or comments, anything to say, any way I could improve, I'm always open to suggestions. I just want to make it as powerful for you guys to help you get started on your real estate photography career and kind of escape the 9-to-5. So if you have any questions, like I said, leave a comment below, send me a message. I'm happy to help. Thanks again. Peace.